Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days. In today's video, it's going to take us to around the 23rd of October. So we're going into the second half of the month with this update, and almost up to the final week of October. Actually, it's going to be turning more on a settle over the weekend. There's going to be some showers and longer spells of rain, but I think in the coming 10 days, we're actually going to find ourselves going back to high pressure. We're going to find our route back to blocking, which is quite interesting. I think the atmosphere is doing something a bit different at the moment this autumn compared to what we normally get. And if this was to carry on into winter, I think things could start to get quite interesting, actually, from a cold perspective, because the way the atmosphere keeps finding itself back to high pressure. Had been seen in September, of course, but it was on the hot side, the warm side of the blocking. In October, we tend to be on the cooler side of the blocking. And the way the atmospheric setup keeps getting itself back to blocking is quite unusual for this time of year. I'll say no more than that. But I'll show you the charts for next week to 10 days anyway in a second. Before I get on with that, just to say about the ads. There's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. You'll be helping us to pay for GavsWeatherVids.com. So thanks so much for doing that. There's also video ads to most pages which own our content when you watch very close back up again. And so it's all helping to pay for our website. It means you don't have to worry about subscriptions, pay-per-view, anything like that. So thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. Just start off with the situation for the next couple of days then. So we've had this high pressure up over Scandinavia dominating really since the start of October, it's brought us a prolonged spell of easterly winds. But in the next few days, low pressure could be moving up from the southwest. So tomorrow we've got low pressure down to the southwest of the country. And as we run through into the weekend, this low pressure gets closer towards us as the high pressure over Scandinavia. It's still there, but it sort of recedes back a little bit. And up towards Sunday, low pressure out in the Atlantic is sort of taking control of the weather. The wind is going from an easterly to a southerly, so it will be turning milder over the weekend as well. That high pressure is still there over Scandinavia. As I say, it looks like next week, especially late next week, we're going to start to find ourselves going back into anticyclonic conditions. So only a short interruption to what has already been a very dry October. These are 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days. This taking us up to 23rd of October. Got the ECMF here on the top, and the GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere where high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. On these charts, red is extrapolating to high pressure, and blue is extrapolating to low pressure. So up to the next week to 10 days, so up to around the 23rd of October, we find the ridge coming about. There it is, big area of above average height setting up right over top of the UK, and it does extend towards the north and the northeast as well. So quite clearly, after that more unsettled interruption over the weekend to start next week, it looks like we're going back to high pressure big time. The GFS is very similar as well. There's the above average heights through the UK and extending up to the northeast and also out into the Atlantic as well. A very big ridge there with the low pressure up here with these blue colours. This is quite unusual for this time of the year. We are typically now in a period of Atlantic dominating weather, or we should be in a period of Atlantic dominated weather with deep areas of low pressure, wet and windy conditions coming in off the Atlantic. Particularly the way we've got this unsettled weather setting up at the weekend and start of next week, but then very quickly we're back to high pressure. That is fairly unusual for this time of the year. Having a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation on Sol's End for the next 2 weeks. The red line here is a 30-year temperature average. So we're cooler than average still, just about at the moment. That's associated with the easterly winds that we've had for several days. But over the next couple of days, the temperatures will start to lift up. So through the weekend, we're going up towards average. So perhaps not quite as mild over the weekend as it looked like it would be, a couple of days ago. Even so, temperatures will be milder, and I think we're going to go up to around 16, 17 degrees in the south. Into next week, bit of a cool down there early on in the week, and then basically just keeping very close to the 30-year temperature average. Perhaps as we get through towards the end of October, which is this period just here, it's in the extended range of the GFS model, but perhaps by then going a little bit cooler than average. Perhaps that's a very long way off. There are one or two members of the GFS ensembles that are going quite cold actually at the end of October. GFS keeps flirting with this idea of a northerly shot in the final week of the month, but it's too far away to take seriously. But obviously if you've got high pressure blocking, then eventually we are going to start to tap into some quite cold air the further on into the year we get. Precipitation, a fair amount of dry weather for the rest of this week into weekend, but second half of the weekend and then into next week we have got some rainfall spikes coming through, but we don't last all that long, and as we go out into the second half of next week that high pressure comes back, and so it looks like we've got a drying trend there for the second half of next week. Just a short interruption, I think, to what has basically been a very dry October. Temperature anomalies for the coming week, 13th of October through 21st of October. Around average, maybe a little bit milder than average. Precipitation anomalies, how often we've said this during the past month, 13th of October through 21st of October, precipitation generally comes out drier than average, near normal for Scotland. So this is how the GFS is looking then on Monday. We've still got, we've still got low pressure out to the northwest of Scotland, bringing weather systems in. I think actually Monday won't be too bad, but on Tuesday we're going to bring another weather system down from the northwest. That could bring outbreaks of rain with it. Looks unsettled into Wednesday, but then beyond that, look at this, the high pressure begins to re-establish itself as that low pressure clears away towards Germany. The ridge is rebuilding, and then as we go through into the end of next week, very much back into high pressure anticyclonic conditions. Quite cold at night later next week. Watch out, chance of some mist and fog, maybe some frost as well. And that high pressure strengthens through the weekend of 22nd, 23rd of October. We saw it on the height anomalies, so high pressure really in control over that weekend. And then beyond that, towards the last week of October, this is Monday, 24th, the high pressure begins to pull out into the Atlantic and starts to shift up towards Greenland and Iceland. And by Tuesday, 25th of October, we're actually pulling down a northerly wind, our first northerly blast of the season. Most of the cold with that is going towards the continent, but we are on the periphery of it anyway. It's too far away to take seriously in terms of detail, but it's an idea that's cropping up quite a lot in the GFS extended range at the moment. Probably doesn't mean anything because the model is unreliable in this time frame, but it is doing this quite a bit, bringing down this northerly shot sometime during the last week of October. ECWF, again, we start next week quite unsettled with low pressure close to the country. Monday probably not too bad, but Tuesday could bring outbreaks of rain down across the UK. But through the middle and latter stages of next week, here comes the high pressure re-establishing itself yet again. Go through to Friday 21st under anticyclonic conditions. Watch out for mist, fog, and maybe a bit of frost as well. And then beyond that into weekend of 22nd, 23rd of October. This is day 10, Sunday 23rd of October. High pressure is in control. But look how the high pressure has shifted. So on Friday 21st, the high pressure is over the UK. As we go through to Sunday 23rd, the high pressure is centering itself to the north of the UK, between Scandinavia and Iceland. We've got warm air advection going up here, which is building the ridge around here. That is unusual for this time of the year. See high pressure doing that kind of thing. I think something unusual is happening with the atmosphere at the moment. The atmospheric setup is not typical of this time of the year. It may not mean anything at all for winter. By December we might be back into our classic westerly flow, but right now things are not behaving as you would normally expect them to do so in the atmosphere at this time of the year. Finally, the GEM starting next week unsettled with low pressure coming through. It's only a short interruption though, because by the middle and latter stages of next week, high pressure is coming back. This is a week away, Thursday 20th of October, with the ridge back in across the UK. And then what the GM does, it doesn't take it to the north and northwest, but it takes it to the northeast. So as we go through to Friday 21st into Saturday 22nd, there's high pressure going back to Scandinavia. Again, that's quite unusual for this time of the year. So we return to those easterly winds. Again, they won't be especially cold because it's still October. But if we get this setup in December, then they are going to be cold, these easterly winds, eventually. And then we go through into day 10, Sunday 23rd of October, with high pressure back in over Scandinavia, dominating the weather. The flow is coming in from the east. If you have a look at the upper air temperatures, it won't be particularly cold. But there we are. We've got a sort of a coolish easterly coming in, very similar to what we've got right now. So we've got this short interruption to the dry weather that we've had through most of October so far. It's going to be a milder and more unsettled weekend and into next week. Not a washout by any means, even this unsettled weather. It's not going to be a complete washout of the period. There will be rain coming and going. But then the middle latter stages of next week, we go back to high pressure again. We find our way back to blocking very quickly, which is really interesting. And I'll say no more than that. And it looks like we go through to the end of next week and then the following weekend, so that's the 22nd, 23rd of October, with a lot of high pressure and probably quite cool as well, especially if those winds getting to the east. Right, that's how it's looking today. We'll have a look at JMA Friday tomorrow with the CFS and Japanese models to see what they're showing for the coming month. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.